Week 1 has arrived. They've already put up some of the spreads for week 1, which I'm pumped about. The opening game will be the Dallas Cowboys versus Tom Brady and the Super Bowl champs on a Thursday night. So that's exciting. Jen, what's going on? How excited are you that the schedule has arrived?
I'm really happy to know what we're going to look forward to, but I don't know how I feel about Dak being attacked by the TBD on his first day back. I mean, I know we've made some moves to get it better, but that could be one and done for Dak. He's back and he's back on his back, right? That is not necessarily the soft landing that I would have liked him to kind of warm up to. Maybe, I don't know that bodes well. And can the Alice Cowboys actually earn that D back with that first game of the NFL season? I mean, you're going to know a lot. And you know what's funny? Everybody's still going to talk about it because it's still America's team and people like to talk about the Cowboys. So even if they get destroyed by the reigning Super Bowl champ, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, TB12, all the guys back on the roster. Oh yeah, and TBD, which as a defensive girl, that's my heart. People still going to talk about the Cowboys, and Cowboys fans will still think that they're ready for the Super Bowl. That much.
Yeah, I actually tweeted or replied to my guys at Catch the Blitz. I was like, doesn't matter who they play week 1. Tampa, it's going to be a massacre. Okay,
Tampa.
It's going to be a massacre. It's going to be bad. So
Tampa.
Dallas, I feel bad for you because, I mean, like you said, it's Dak's first game after an injury. At least he'll have Tyron Smith and his tackles back in the lineup. That's at least nice because they weren't really suiting up last year because their offensive line was a disaster and they had Andy Dalton behind that offensive line. It will be a huge test for a lot of the young players on that Dallas defense for sure. But the scary part about Tampa is, like you said, their chemistry will be intact. They'll have a full offseason to work on it. And the continuity of their roster last year is just back intact for this year. So it's going to be like crazy fireworks from Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And that stadium is going to be just bonkers too. So that game, I know that the Cowboys may not be able to stick with the champs, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless.
It's going to be exciting, of course, because I am ready to have Dak back. I'm actually ready for the Cowboys to be a contender because it makes football more fun. Whether you are the delusional level of some of their fans, which means that they still thought they had a shot, right? To the end of the season, they were holding that rope of opportunity of bring me up, Dallas Cowboys. I still feel like we've got them. They still are rabid, and I am here for it. I think it's hilarious. I know I have friends of mine. I mean, I lived in Dallas for 15 years, so I've been around it, heard it, and it makes it more fun when the Cowboys are contenders because they, it's a fun team. Whether you love them or hate them, it's always going to be something that gets, everything's bigger in Texas. So they're going to have bigger egos too. So I can't wait to have them back. But I also do not give them one. I mean, Vegas has to be meh about this one because it's not like there's a lot on the line except for the delusion of Dallas Cowboys fans.
Yeah, I think the spread opened already at 6.5. So the Bucks are favored by nearly, a touchdown plus.
That's it. 6.5.
That will probably go up, to be honest, because people, the public, they're going to want to bet on Tom Brady. So that's the opener, and it's one of obviously the GOAT versus America's team. So that's exciting. But when we look at Sunday, September the 12th is the opening day for many of the teams in the NFL. We have some pretty interesting games. We have Matthew Stafford in his first game as a Ram on Sunday Night Football, taking on a former rival in the Chicago Bears. So maybe they want to start off hot, get some traction, get some excitement around Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and that combination with the Rams. We have the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots, Brian Flores versus Bill Belichick, and the two very improved teams and two of the best defenses in the game. So that will be fun. We have.
Hold on. Do you think Tua can do well against Belichick and
I don't
his
think
defense.
so.
Again, okay. I'm from Florida. I like Flores. I would like to see it. I'm not all in on Tua though. And Tua versus Bill Belichick defense after a season that, we all know he's been dollar bill now. He's been spending money and he is an evil genius who is coming back for his comeback, right? He missed the playoffs last year. Belichick is in his lab. And I think Tua is going to be as uncomfortable on his first game as Dak is.
Ooh. Yeah, and I can't say that Miami has the same level of offensive line as Dallas does. So
that's right.
And it's going to be interesting. I think both coaches are going to try to outduel each other on the defensive side of the football because I think Miami's defense is pretty good. And we actually had this matchup last year in week 1. New England ended up winning it. A lot of that was due to the fact that Miami had no idea what they were going to see from Cam Newton and that new offense. This year, it's going to be a little similar because Cam has new weapons, including the 2 tight end set, which I think is going to totally throw off Miami. Like, I don't know how they're going to defend that week 1 or even prepare to defend that week 1. Maybe Flores will have some inside information because he's been in that building before in terms of like what they might try to do to them. But that's going to be a really fun matchup because I think a lot of people look at both teams as very much improved and very much in that AFC East conversation. Speaking of the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a pretty high profile matchup. You have one of the best defenses and you have one of the best quarterbacks and best offenses going at it. So that's going to be fun. Any thoughts on that matchup? Steelers Bills?
I think the Bills have been building, right? Like the Bills have been building and they're steady, really pretty solid. And they're going to be building on that too. The Steelers have a lot to prove coming into this season with how they started versus how they finished. Obviously we talked about Najee. I think that's a huge upgrade because now, we didn't have a running game last year, right? Like, did they forget that that's a part of football? Because yeah, they did. But now we have him and that'll be better. But this is going to tell us a lot about what they're going to look like and what the team's identity is. I think it's Ben Roethlisberger's last ride. Like it's his last hurrah. So they really have to get it done. And you can't start how Steelers did last year and not feel bitter by how it ended. So they got a lot to prove.
Yeah, I totally agree. I look at the Steelers as a prime candidate, and I know you don't like to hear this because you know some of the coaches over there, but I look at them as a prime candidate to regress this season and decline a little bit just because they did lose a couple pieces on defense. Their defense was very strong last year, carried much of their success last year, and I'm just not certain about the offense and Big Ben and if he can keep up the level of play he's had over the course of his career. And the run game's a question, as you stated. So. And the Bills are, a really tough team to take on week 1 with that offense. And they really, another team like Tampa, who brought back a lot of the same players, like they were able to bring back everybody. So they're going to be a team that's ready to go week 1 because they have that continuity. One really interesting game to me is the Chargers and the Washington football team. I think those are 2 teams that are very different, but I think a lot of NFL fans are looking at them as major improving teams in terms of, Fitzpatrick at quarterback for Washington. The defense is loaded, and you added Curtis Samuel at wide receiver. The Chargers with the whole new offensive line, new coaching staff, Derwin James back could be awesome. So that's a really fun game. I think maybe an underrated game. Do you look at any of these games here that you're like, ooh, that's an underrated one that I'm going to be watching?
Well, I think I do agree that that's going to be a good game. I think one of the interesting ones is where will Aaron Rodgers be?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's 2 matchups. He could be like
themselves.
Right. They covered themselves, right? Like either way, whether he's in Denver or in Green Bay, he'll be in that same time slot. So I can't help but look at that and be like, they don't know anything more than we do. But they know that they've got to have him. Basically, it's like Fox was like, listen, okay, I'm going to need some Rodgers. And I don't care where he is, unless he's on Jeopardy, because then he's not going to be on our channel at that time. So I thought that was one of the most interesting parts of this schedule release. I do think the Monday night matchup was kind of like, meh, like this is what's left, because the Raiders, to me,
that's pretty often that happens, though. I know that Monday Night Football used to be, especially when it was first or originated and into the 90s and stuff, like it was a big, big deal. It was the primetime slot. Nowadays, it's kind of like they get the third game sometimes out of the primetime slots.
Right. Like I looked at that one and I was like, well, were they just hoping people would only watch that game because there was nothing else on? Right. It was like, wah, wah.
They're going to watch it regardless. It's week 1, Monday Night Football, Lamar Jackson. I mean, they're going to watch it.
Right. Like I'm going to watch it because of Lamar Jackson, but I'm not worried about the Raiders in any way, shape, or form. Like, I think Chucky, maybe, I don't know if he's tired. I don't know if the TV show contract ran out and they thought it was going to work like scripted television, like we're supposed to do this. Right. Because, you know, his GM was from TV. He was from TV and it sounded really good. But I don't really feel like we've seen it. So I think maybe they're like, we love you, Lamar, and you finally have receivers. So let's see you put up some points and meh.
Yeah, they do have a lot of, the NFL has a lot of their marquee teams in big games. I mean, the Bucks on Thursday, you have the Ravens on Monday, you have Stafford and McVay on Sunday, you have the Browns and the Chiefs. I mean, that's a stellar game. Those are two teams. I mean, the Chiefs are the team in the AFC and the Browns improved their defense immensely and we're already a playoff team. So that could be a preview of the AFC Championship, some people are thinking.
It really could. And I think that's going to be a fun one to see. I'm glad that Mahomes will have, you know, his O-line back or, you know, improved. And we will actually get to see him work some magic, right? It was so disappointing to not get to see like the real Mahomes magic offense, high flying speed in the Super Bowl. It was kind of like,
right.
Unless
you were cheering for Tampa. Like me, but you know.
I wanted that game though.
I thought it would still be a game though. That's the weird thing about it. But
if that Tyrann Mathieu interception is actually like a thing, that game changes significantly.
Possibly.
It absolutely does. Momentum is so big. And he is a player, personally knowing him, you get him on fire, your whole team catches fire, right? Like he is a catalyst, but you could see he was pulled out of that game and
he got frustrated.
Yeah, he was frustrated, and that's going to hurt the entire thing, right? Like he is just that guy. But if he's getting it and he's on, woo, Brady, you better watch out.
Yeah, I look at the Browns, they're in a tough spot. I mean, week 1, not because they're not great or talented, but they have so many new pieces on defense to step up to that challenge to defend Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's just going to be, you have so much to communicate, especially Andy Reid is like notorious for amazing week 1 game plans and plays you've never seen before. Like I remember one week, I think it was 2017, and they went to New England after New England won the Super Bowl, and they destroyed New England, like with Alex Smith. That was before Mahomes was there because Andy Reid was just drawing up things. Like, I was like, what is going on? And New England couldn't defend them at all. So yeah, that's just tough in a week 1, but Odell Beckham will be back. So that's also exciting on that side of the football. I like the Colts Seahawks matchup. I really like that matchup actually. And you have Carson Wentz now in Indianapolis, and of course, Russell Wilson with the buzz of this offseason. Week 1, they're going to have to start strong, I think, to gain some momentum. And maybe, you know, the Colts were a playoff team last year, so I could see that being a pretty competitive game.
That game bores me.
It does?
It bores me. I'm still mad at the Seahawks. I don't feel like they did enough to, like, you know, to really get better, right? Like, I still don't see that you solved my D-line question. I'm still going to be looking at freaking Jamal Adams to lead the team in sacks, right? Like, I don't think that you have any dogs. And when you don't have dogs as a defensive coach, I am not convinced, right? Like I want Seattle Seahawks, Legion of Boom. That's what I want from them. That's what makes me like them. That's what I cheer for. And it's kind of more like the Legion of meh.
Right? Do you have a defense? I'm curious. Do you have a defense like in week 1 here that stands out to you that you could see like really improve or maybe have a statement game in week 1? I know you said New England versus Tua.
Yeah, New England, I can't wait to see what just destruction they come out with, right? Like Bill Belichick spent money and he's mad. Like this is evil Bill hair on fire. Like his sweatshirts might even get shorter, right? Like I think he's gonna come out in like a tank top because he flexed the sleeves like right dropped off, and he's like, me angry, right? Like, so I can't wait to see what happens there. I want to see the Washington football team play more defense. I am high on them. Obviously, I always love TBD. Like, you know, they are so good and they have so many pieces. But the one I want to see transformed, I gotta see what my Cardinals are doing.
I was gonna say the Cardinals.
I've got to see. I'm gonna get
emotional here.
I'm gonna get emotional. Live. It's gonna happen.
JJ Watt,
Chandman Jones, Marcus Golden, Buda Baker. Come on now, defense. You just go sack the quarterback. That is like a oh. If I'm a quarterback, I'm having bad dreams, right? Because some people might say, oh, well, JJ Watt isn't the guy he was. Are you going to tell your quarterback that? Because how are you going to handle all of those dogs? Because what are you going to leave Chandler with one guy to handle?
I will say, like JJ Watt last year, sure, maybe he lost a step, but he was still being asked to be the number one without a doubt, like double team this guy every play. Now with Chandler Jones, like you have to double team Chandler Jones.
Yep, you have to. And if you don't, then, then JJ is going to do something. Again, I always say the shiny penny, right? So let's look at shiny penny. One of those guys is double teamed. Has to be, at least. So then you have Chandler Jones. Okay, let's say we double team JJ. Then you got Chandler and you got Marcus Golden. Let's not forget the dog that he is, because though some of you may not know, now you're going to know. He has a motor and a fire in him that is ridiculous. He is that guy. So you are going to have different devastation. Okay, now we got a single Marcus. Like you have to. So his sack count is going to be up. But even when you're trying to double, you throw some of those other guys in there, like you don't have problems. You have a lot of problems.
You have Zaven Collins now, first round linebacker, who's like a 6'5" like truck, who's just going to be coming down on like blitzes. And you have Jordan Phillips, who I think had around a 10 sack season from Buffalo a couple of years ago. So he's in the mix there on the interior defensive line. So their front seven could really take over games. I know a lot of people have questions about their secondary. They brought in Malcolm Butler, but I think that front could just really destroy some teams. Tennessee is a good team, though. I mean, they made the playoffs last year. They lost some pieces offensively. We don't really know what to expect from the new offense without Arthur Smith, but they've been a good team consistently the last 3 or 4 years. So that's going to be a good challenge there in week 1.
With the matchup, though, for me, right? Yeah. What makes Tennessee so good is Derrick Henry, right? And obviously has good blocking. I am not worried about him against that front seven. Right. So if people are worried about their secondary, I get it. Right. But this isn't the matchup that I'm really worried about the secondary, because those dogs are going to take their number one out. And if they can, when
they don't really have great receivers in Tennessee. So I think that's a fair point.
Right. So, if I can limit Derrick Henry, you're not going to shut him down completely, and you don't have to. Right. But if I can keep him bottled up and minimize the gashes, right? Keep it within that front seven. We have a really good opportunity to beat that team, because I know we're going to get pressure, and you also don't really have that great a receiver. So from a matchup perspective, I give this one to the Cardinals.
Yeah, a little bit biased there, but
I mean, it is biased, but it's actually well-founded bias, right?
yeah, it's
Like,
well-found bias.
if I was saying they have the best receivers out there, and we don't have the greatest secondary, but I'm still going Cardinals all the way, baby. Like, then call it bias. But that's a
Yeah.
really sound football
I'm
argument.
just joking around.
And you know what? If I wasn't biased, I would be a jerk because I know those guys. So I'm gonna cheer for them.
You have some other games you already brought up. Like, I thought it was interesting. I never really commented on this, but the whole Aaron Rodgers thing with the Broncos and Packers at the same time slot. But you have the Giants and the Saints playing those two teams. So I feel like it saves the NFL because the Giants are like they're the New York Giants. So that's obviously a huge market. And there's a lot of intrigue around that team this year to potentially take the next step. Saquon is back. And you have the Saints with Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. I'm assuming it will be Jameis Winston, but the new Saints. So like that's ratings too. So they've kind of saved themselves there. Some of the games we haven't already covered, you have the Niners and the Lions, which I don't think super exciting outside of maybe Trey Lance, or I don't know if it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, but if it is Trey Lance, that's a pretty easy matchup to start with. If that's the way you want to go, you have the Eagles in Atlanta. You have the Vikings and Bengals. The one that stands out to me that I do really want to talk about is the Jets and the Panthers. And the reason this stands out to me is because this is Sam Darnold versus Sam Darnold's old team and Zach Wilson.
Yes. This game to me is exciting. And you are exactly right. Because if nothing else, right? Like these could be, and obviously the Jets were the second worst team in the league last year. But there is pride in this game, right? Like for everybody who's a Jets fan, you're now tuning in to see, do we finally have the guy, right? Like, are we finally going to be good? And we have a new head coach and we have new everybody and we got our quarterback and it's so exciting. We don't know if we should have let Sam Darnold go, but now we've got the new guy and now he's in Carolina. And if I'm Sam Darnold, I am out for blood. Like Sam Darnold, if you do not come in and absolutely dismantle a defense that you used to look at all of the time, then you're not the guy. Then you've officially become not the guy to me. And
I will say it's going to be a different defense because
it is, and you're right, but you still do know all the guys. Like I know that it's a different scheme, but from a pride perspective, and that is a really good point. And I don't want to not.
Yeah, I will say though, like Sam Darnold, I believe will be favored in this game. I haven't checked the spread, but Carolina is certainly looked at. They're at home. They're playing the second worst team last year, and Carolina has a lot of talent. So, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't do something in this game, then first of all, everybody's going to be like, "Oh, we wasted our time with that guy anyway," right? Like and the New York market is not kind, right? Like it is that if you don't want to.
Zach Wilson has no pressure.
He does. He absolutely does.
He does? Yes. I don't know. Maybe.
Yes,
I don't think anyone's expecting him to really do well this year. But
look, there's a lot of pressure on that franchise because there is a buzz about how much they've done, about new Salah, about new quarterback, about all of that. Now, do I think you have to come out and win the Super Bowl to do that? No. Do I think that's even a reasonable like hope? No. Now, Jets fans will probably say, we're finally going to do it. Slow your roll, Jets. It's going to take you a few years, right? You have new everything, and it's going to take you a while to really get that all together. But what you do need to see is that they are cohesive. You do need to see that they are a scrappy team that's going to go after things. I need to see some of that Salah, like that guy on the sidelines, showing that he's changing the culture of New York Jets football so that people have something to buy into, something to hold on to, something to believe. Because if it's more of the same,
yeah, I guess I get that point. I think there is a lot more pressure on Sam Darnold just to see because because everybody, especially the believers, I'll call them, of Sam Darnold over the years have always said like, oh, he doesn't have the line, he doesn't have the receivers, he doesn't have this and that and this and that. And now he's in a situation where you would believe he has at least most of those things to make things happen. So if he doesn't do that from the get-go, I feel like the stock in the Carolina Panthers will drop a lot, considering they're playing the Jets, who are not favored to do much this year. So
no,
but that game is going to be really fun.
It's going to be fun, and it's going to tell us a lot. And that's why I said, like, I don't know that it's pressure, but people need to see enough to believe, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I mean, if you look at a Jets fan, like, it's like they're the Walking Dead. Like, I like the Jets. Like, I know. Like, they literally are like, I know, yeah. But I can't help it. And I'm like, so they need something to say, yes, okay, we're going in the right direction. And if they get that, if they crawl out of the basement, then they'll be happy, right? Like if you're like 4 or 5 wins, you start to go, okay. And then maybe the next year you start to talk about them actually winning, like being competitive, hopefully. But they need to do something to give people a reason to believe, because it's been a dumpster fire there for too long.
I like how the NFL put Trevor Lawrence in his first game, try to give him a big boost by playing the Texans. I think that's kind of fun. That's kind of nice. I don't know.
Look, okay. It's a really interesting thing to do. It kind of feels like to me that we're now trying to have a new golden boy. And he hasn't even played it down yet. Like, we're setting him up to be that guy. It's also a very weird vibe with what's going on with Jacksonville right now. And like Tim Tebow.